Well, back out of the house into the shop, working on cherry red again. Another day, another dollar invested. The great thing about doing it yourself is the money that you don't spend on stuff that's ready-made is money that you don't have to earn. So that's the key to success, maybe. Today we're going to work on the front splash pan or the apron between the front bumper and the grill. And some important stuff to cover there. You almost want to think like, nah, just throw that thing away. It's so much work. And it's not something that's seen a lot, right? But it's just kind of there and it covers it up and it's important. So we'll clean it up and get started. Nice to have things a little bit clean. Of course, this is all going to be sandblasted later on, but it just really is handy to be able to have some, well, a little bit of cleanliness. Man, stuff gets dirty though. Can't believe how many times I have to sweep up this shop in a week. We'll measure it up and figure out how we're going to mount it. Of course, again, that Cadillac snout was a foot longer than the 49 Chev, so everything is just jammed in here. Look how tight that is. So we're going to cut a fairly good piece out of this splash apron and put a mounting bolts around it and along the perimeter and whatever, and get it mounted on there nice and solid. Measure, double measure, measure again. Man, it takes a lot of thinking and a lot of measuring, doesn't it? I keep having to buy more Sharpies and markers because I'm running out all the time. Zip discs are the wonder of the 21st century. Well, actually, they were in the 20th century, weren't they? Get decent ones because they last a lot longer than the cheap ones. You know what the real problem with buying cheap stuff is, especially stuff that's consumable like a zip disc or whatever, is it creates so much dust and debris in the air, and then you got to breathe all that stuff or deal with it somehow. So I buy some, kind of middle of the road zip discs, 50 at a time, buy boxfuls of them because they're just so handy. Remember the day when we used to have to cut stuff like this with a cutting torch, with an acetylene torch? How lumpy that was, and then you'd grind it and trying to make it smooth. Zip disc, zip and it's done. Nice straight lines, clean them up so they don't cut your fingers on them. And then you've got something that looks decent. Looking for what this bolt hole here goes into. Now this is the problem with this car. It's from Saskatchewan. Decades of running and pounding over gravel roads. And so we have to fill it in because they cracked off. The ends of these things cracked off. And the frame was actually so cracked on this car that we got the front end off of, that there was a chunk of frame missing out beside the engine on the steering wheel side. Okay, it looks like it's actually 19 gauge, but we don't have 19, we got 18. I don't think you can buy 19 around here. And it's time to break out the panel shaping tools. I love my bead roller, cheap $100 bead roller. And then you gotta get some power on it though, because they come with a handle on them. If you get the cheap ones, you got to get a pretty expensive one to be powered. But it's simple, quite simple to power it. I power this one with my 1/2-inch drill, and it's got reverse and variable speed, so I can control everything. And I control the drill with a foot pedal made out of an old gate hinge and a brake cable off of some Honda moped. I just went to the shop and asked for the longest brake cable they had. And so I can control it with my foot, which is really handy. And then leaves you two hands free. Now, the first thing I like to do is make a pass through without trying to form anything, just to kind of get the feel of the die. And then start putting pressure upward to make my bend. And basically what we're going to do here is we're just going to make tips for each side of the car for this splash panel and make the front little, it drops down and it's got a flange on it. We'll make that the same shape. And then the back drops down so that we can put a bolt through that hole and hold it. So the key is to get the shape right. Do that with cardboard and scissors and Sharpies and whatever, and keep trying, unless you got one of those tools with all the little needle thing sticks out, you can stick that on there, but it doesn't work for very big things. Or you can use wire, some guys will use like a coat hanger size wire or whatever. But I find the cardboard pattern is good because you can cut it and then you can adjust it a little bit with scissors, and then it's not going to move. And then you just put it on your flat metal and you trace it, and then you've got your, you've got your pattern. Okay, we roll it up this way, then flip it over and roll it back again so that it has the flat top comes down and comes back out again with a flange. Okay, so down and then a flange out. And that's the shape of the old Chev one. So set this here so that it's going to be, this is kind of going to be riding. Wish I had a round edged flat die here, but I don't, so we're going to just be careful. It's all about chances anyway. But let's put a line on here, see if we can get something to go by. Better than eyeballing it slightly. The bead roller comes with a standard set of dies, and then I designed some more with the curves for the rounded, doing the rounded edges. And it relieves some stress in the metal if we can do both corners kind of at the same time. So now when I go this way, this long edge here is getting in the way. So we will cut this off at the finished distance, which is there. I don't need this. There we go. Down to an even lip on there. I think what I need to do is find a die that has a hole in it that this can drop into, which, ta-da! There we go. These small panels are actually more difficult to build than bigger ones because they're hard to hang on to, and a lot of times the curves are so close together that you can't get the dies or the tools in between. And on this car, I don't think there's a lot of big stuff to do. The rocker panels are going to take a bit, but they're long and consistent and actually quite easy to build. The back fenders are going to have some complex curves, which is going to require some smaller pieces, but a lot of bashing, smashing, and then smoothing out with the English wheel. Otherwise, pretty straightforward. Be nice if this flange was a little wider, but it's not. Okay, so that'll drop down into there, and I won't keep bending it back again. Wrong way. And I got this thing in the road. So it happens with these small pieces. Let's just bend this out of the road for a minute, because I can put it back again. Important to get this curve looking good first. What do you think? Does it look like a Chev? Looks like it came out of the factory to me. So we've got a dip in here. So we will try shrinking this edge a bit. Can't shrink the part that's actually stretched, but maybe I can shrink this edge here and convince this one to come back down a bit. Stretch for yellow, shrink for black. And these monsters put marks on, which isn't the best thing, but better than other things sometimes. So we'll just shrink this in a bit. Actually, you have to be careful because you can go too far real fast. And then we'll paint it with a high build primer. So to finish off this end, the very tip, I want this to come straight down and be like a cap on the end. So we cut into here And then we'll just smash this piece flat. I think I can just kind of. So there we go, that's the finished product. And we gotta drill a hole in here. Okay, so that will fit right in there. Got some grinder marks on there, or whatever. It's pitted, bit beat up there, but that'll cover it. You know what I hate? I hate doing everything twice.
But every car has a passenger side and a driver's side. So we're gonna have to go through this whole process one more time.
Then we'll go in the back and probably run a bead on there again, so that when we grind this flat, we still have enough meat there to hold it together. Wow, okay. One more to do, 1:45. Well, again, this part isn't going to be seen much. The bumper's going to hide the front of it, and the bumper wraps right around there to kind of that last patch of paint. You see the old gray paint there? That's where the bumper will end, so this thing will be pretty well covered. But I don't think this is really the way that Chev made them. That little blunt cap on the end there, it looks a little bit funny at this point. I think it's supposed to actually curl right around and end in a nice curl. I'm not sure, because I don't have anything to compare this with. And one more thing. Speaking of bead rollers with handles on them, good luck with getting your wife or somebody else to roll that thing for you. It just is. I mean, my wife would. She's the sweetest thing ever. But it would cost me. There'd be paybacks. There'd be drive me to the mall, watch me shop, stuff like that. And yeah, you know, it's just better to stick some power source on there and make it work. But you know what? One of the greatest things that we can do, you think about the guy, the story, right, about the guy who's dying and on his deathbed. You know, somebody asks him, like, what do you wish you'd have done different with your life? And he's not going to say, like, oh, I wish I built more hot rods. He's going to say, I wish I spent more time with my family. Well, I don't know if that's really true, because he's probably not thinking about that at all on his deathbed. But the point is that, you know, those relationships in our life are so precious and so valuable. And they can break so easily, right? And there's a lot of broken relationships. And, you know, I mean, we've had a good marriage for 40 some years, but sometimes it's by the skin of your teeth, I tell you what, and not everybody makes it through that. But that kind of stuff can be redeemed, you know. But one of the touchy ones is with our kids or with our parents. And those relationships, see, you can't, those kids will always be your kids. Your parents will always be your parents. So you better do whatever it takes to keep a good relationship. And it's not difficult. All you got to do is be nice. Don't be a jerk, right? And I found that sometimes when my kids were like having a struggle with the whole, is the family really important, or could I really care less about this family? That one of the things I would do is put up pictures around that were of things that we did together, you know, the making memories kind of thing, and bring those memories back and stick those up around the place, because we've done some amazing things together as a family, traveled the world, you know, and it's just been so amazing. And my kids really appreciate their upbringing, but they got to be reminded. I've got to be reminded, and so we would bring back those things and hang them on the wall, you know, and it just kind of gives you that feeling like this is who we are. And and my kids nowadays, you know, they'll tackle something and it can be a little bit difficult, but they'll say, "Well, I know who I am." So we'll see you next time on Cherry Red. I don't know where we're going from here. We've got lots of little pieces to do, which I'll just do them by myself, and I'm not going to bother you with them. But anything that I think might be a little bit more, you know, like entertaining or interesting, or that you might be able to help me with, I'll post them, and we'll continue with the episodes. And yeah, just, you know, be entertained, enjoy yourself. Have a great week.